r/askreddit posted by u/platform disco funk. What's a scary or disturbing fact that would probably keep most people awake at night? In the 70s-80s, the first case of many Southeast Asian refugees in the U.S. who died screaming in their sleep was recorded. This was common for Lao Hmong men who lived through the Cambodian genocide and CIA recruitment for the Lao Civil War. It's theorized that this was an extreme form of PTSD. One case, the man had stayed up for days fearing he would be attacked if he slept. He drank coffee and lied to his parents about sleeping. He did everything he could to keep from sleeping. When he finally fell asleep, his parents thought this crisis was over. Then they heard screams in the middle of the night. By the time they got to him, he was dead. He died in the middle of a nightmare. Edit: I said first recorded, but I'm dumb and this was not the first record of it. And Lao Civil War not Nam. Edit 2, some articles from the time. A digital NY Times article from when the cases really started racking up in 81. And LA Times article from 88. When swimming in stagnant water you could inhale an amoeba which eats its way through your nose and then eats your brainstem. You can get a flesh-eating amoeba from the water park. You could have a brain aneurysm with 0 symptoms. Any day it could rupture and kill you from significant blood loss. Happened to my mom's friend right in front of her. The seemingly, perfectly healthy woman died at 40 without warning during a work trip and while having drinks with her friends. One second she was laughing, the next second she was on the ground. Never woke up again. My poor mom was the one that had to call her husband and kids. Happened to my grandmother who was in perfect health. Happened to a classmate from high school at 22. Nicest guy ever. Fell asleep on his couch at home and died. The frontal lobotomy was performed with no anesthesia and it was an outpatient procedure. Even funner facts. It was performed by sticking an ice pick in the tear duct, punching through the skull, and swishing it around in the brain tissue. There was no way to gauge or predict its effectiveness because you were just swirling it around in brain tissue. And the funniest fact of all. Because of number 2, patients were often kept awake and asked questions during the lobotomy to see when their mental performance/behavior changed to determine when the lobotomy was done. Edit with additional fun fact, the guy who invented and popularized it won a Nobel Prize. There is a spider that has fangs so powerful that it can bite through a leather boot. It usually attacks multiple times and you have to grab it and pry it off of you. It is also incredibly deadly. Edit: I wrote it below here, but it's the Cindy funnel web spider. Because of its venom it is the deadliest spider. You can actually wake up during surgery. But the worst part is that you are still paralyzed. So you can feel everything what they do to you but you can't signal to them that you are conscious. This is one of my worst fears. Actually, if a sedative wears off but a paralytic does not, the only thing you can do is cry. We were taught in school that if your sedated patient cries you done messed up and you need to resedate right away. Addition, in the context of what I was taught paralyzation there is one warning sign: sedation is wearing off. When watching the patient's CO2 levels while they're breathing, the waveform the monitor creates will get a notch on it from the patient starting to breath against the ventilations they're being given. There is a plant called Dendrocnide Meroides, also known as Gimpy Gimpy or the suicide plant. It's mostly found in Australia and has little stinging hairs all over it. When touched, they inject a neurotoxin in your body which hurts so much that most people rather killed themselves than waiting the 1 or 2 days until it gets better. I have the information from another Redditor on this sub, and haven't found anything that literally says yeah they killed themselves, but I do believe it's true. Anyway, Ernie Ryder, who got hit by this plant in 1963, said, "For 2 or 3 days the pain was almost unbearable. I couldn't work or sleep, then it was pretty bad pain for another fortnight or so. The stinging persisted for 2 years and recurred every time I had a cold shower. There's nothing to rival it, it's 10 times worse than anything else." Source: https://n.m.wikipedia.org/wiki/dendrocnide_meroides. When an autopsy is performed, the organs are removed, weighed, sliced and placed into a plastic bag. This includes the brain and tongue. Once they're finished, they put everything together in the plastic bag and place it in the chest cavity. So when you're buried, your brain is actually in your chest.